Okay, this is my human anatomy lab, respiratory, digestive, urinary, and reproductive systems. Let's start with the head. Esophagus, 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 esophagus. Parotid gland, parotid gland, parotid gland, parotid gland, parotid gland. Submandibular gland, submandibular gland, submandibular gland, submandibular gland, submandibular gland. Body, esophagus, 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 esophagus. Spleen, 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 spleen. Stomach, esophagus, 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 esophagus. Fundus, 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 fundus. Greater curvature, greater curvature, greater curvature, greater curvature, greater curvature. Lesser curvature, lesser curvature, lesser curvature, lesser curvature, lesser curvature. Pylorus, 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 pylorus. Pancreas, duodenum, 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 duodenum. Common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct. Pancreas, 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 pancreas. Pancreatic duct, pancreatic duct, pancreatic duct, pancreatic duct, pancreatic duct. Intestine. Cecum, 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 cecum. Ileocecal valve, ileocecal valve, ileocecal valve, ileocecal valve, ileocecal valve. Appendix, 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 appendix. Ascending colon, ascending colon, ascending colon, ascending colon, ascending colon. Transverse colon, transverse colon, transverse colon, transverse colon, transverse colon. Descending colon, descending colon, descending colon, descending colon, descending colon. Jejunum, 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 jejunum. Ileum, 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 ileum. Liver, right lobe, right lobe, right lobe, right lobe, right lobe. Left lobe, left lobe, left lobe, left lobe, left lobe. Caudate lobe, caudate lobe, caudate lobe, caudate lobe, caudate lobe. Quadrate lobe, quadrate lobe, quadrate lobe, quadrate lobe, quadrate lobe. Gallbladder, 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 gallbladder. Hepatic duct, hepatic duct, hepatic duct, hepatic duct, hepatic duct. Cystic duct, cystic duct, cystic duct, cystic duct, cystic duct. Round ligament, round ligament, round ligament, round ligament, round ligament. Falciform ligament, falciform ligament, falciform ligament, falciform ligament, falciform ligament. Common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct. Big pancreas model. Pancreas, 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 pancreas. Spleen, 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 spleen. Duodenum, 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 duodenum. Pancreatic duct, pancreatic duct, pancreatic duct, pancreatic duct, pancreatic duct. Accessory duct, accessory duct, accessory duct, accessory duct, accessory duct. Common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct, common bile duct. Cardiac orifice, a big stomach model. Cardiac orifice, cardiac orifice, cardiac orifice, cardiac orifice, cardiac orifice. Fundus, 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 fundus. Lesser curvature, lesser curvature, lesser curvature, lesser curvature, lesser curvature. Pylorus, 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 pylorus. Peritoneum, 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 peritoneum. Mucosa, 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 mucosa. Rugae, 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 rugae. Submucosal layer, submucosal layer, submucosal layer, submucosal layer, submucosal layer. Gastric gland, gastric gland, gastric gland, gastric gland, gastric gland. Larynx, trachea, bronchi model. Hyoid bone, hyoid bone, hyoid bone, hyoid bone, hyoid bone, hyoid bone. Thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage. Cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage. Tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage. Thyrohyoid muscle, thyrohyoid muscle, thyrohyoid muscle, thyrohyoid muscle, thyrohyoid muscle. Cricothyroid muscle, cricothyroid muscle, cricothyroid muscle, cricothyroid muscle, cricothyroid muscle. Right primary bronchus, right primary bronchus, right primary bronchus, right primary bronchus, right primary bronchus. Left primary bronchus, left primary bronchus, left primary bronchus, left primary bronchus, left primary bronchus. Bifurcation of trachea, bifurcation of trachea, bifurcation of trachea, bifurcation of trachea, bifurcation of trachea. Superior lobar bronchus, superior lobar bronchus, superior lobar bronchus, superior lobar bronchus, superior lobar bronchus. Middle lobar bronchus, middle lobar bronchus, middle lobar bronchus, middle lobar bronchus, middle lobar bronchus. Inferior lobar bronchus, inferior lobar bronchus, inferior lobar bronchus, inferior lobar bronchus, inferior lobar bronchus. Superior lobar bronchus, superior lobar bronchus, superior lobar bronchus, superior lobar bronchus, superior lobar bronchus. Inferior lobar bronchus, inferior lobar bronchus, inferior lobar bronchus, inferior lobar bronchus, inferior lobar bronchus. Tertiary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, tertiary bronchi. Larynx model. Thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage, thyroid cartilage. Cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, cricoid cartilage. Epiglottis, 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 epiglottis. Tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage. Hyoid bone, hyoid bone, hyoid bone, hyoid bone, hyoid bone. Little man model. Right primary bronchus, right primary bronchus, right primary bronchus, right primary bronchus, right primary bronchus. Left primary bronchus, left primary bronchus, left primary bronchus, left primary bronchus, left primary bronchus. Right superior lobe of lung, 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 right superior lobe of lung. Right middle lobe of lung, 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 right middle lobe of lung. Right inferior lobe of lung, 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 right inferior lobe of lung. Left superior lobe of lung, 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 left superior lobe of lung. Left inferior lobe of lung, 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 left inferior lobe of lung. Lingula of left lung, lingula of left lung, lingula of left lung, lingula of left lung, lingula of left lung. Cardiac notch, cardiac notch, cardiac notch, cardiac notch, cardiac notch. Cardiac impression, cardiac impression, cardiac impression, cardiac impression, cardiac impression. Apex of lung, apex of lung, apex of lung, apex of lung, apex of lung. Bifurcation of trachea, bifurcation of trachea, bifurcation of trachea, bifurcation of trachea, bifurcation of trachea. Secondary and tertiary bronchioles, secondary and tertiary bronchioles, secondary and tertiary bronchioles, secondary and tertiary bronchioles, secondary and tertiary bronchioles. Tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, tracheal cartilage. Kidney, ureter, 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 ureter. Renal artery, renal artery, renal artery, renal artery, renal artery. Renal vein, renal vein, renal vein, renal vein, renal vein. Renal pelvis, renal pelvis, renal pelvis, renal pelvis, renal pelvis. Renal column, renal column, renal column, renal column, renal column. Calyces, 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 calyces. Renal cortex, renal cortex, renal cortex, renal cortex, renal cortex. Renal pyramid, renal pyramid, renal pyramid, renal pyramid, renal pyramid. Renal medulla, renal medulla, renal medulla, renal medulla, renal medulla. Loop of Henle, loop of Henle, loop of Henle, loop of Henle, loop of Henle. Interlobar artery, interlobar artery, interlobar artery, interlobar artery, interlobar artery. Interlobar vein, interlobar vein, interlobar vein, interlobar vein, interlobar vein. pyramid, nephron, glomerulus in Bowman's capsule, 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 collecting duct, collecting duct, collecting duct, collecting duct, collecting duct, proximal convoluted tube, 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 descending limb, descending limb, descending limb, descending limb, descending limb, ascending limb, ascending limb, ascending limb, ascending limb, ascending limb, distal convoluted tube, 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 afferent arterial, afferent arterial, afferent arterial, afferent arterial, afferent arterial, efferent arterial, efferent arterial, efferent arterial, efferent arterial, efferent arterial, arcuate artery and vein, 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 interlobular 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 artery and vein, kidney corpuscle, glomerulus, 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 Bowman's capsule, Bowman's capsule, Bowman's capsule, Bowman's capsule, Bowman's capsule, afferent arterial, afferent arterial, afferent arterial, afferent arterial, afferent arterial, efferent arterial, efferent arterial, efferent arterial, efferent arterial, efferent arterial, vascular loops, vascular loops, vascular loops, vascular loops, vascular loops, kidney model on stand, medulla, 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 cortex, 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 renal vein, renal vein, renal vein, renal vein, renal vein, renal artery, renal artery, renal artery, renal artery, renal artery, ureter, 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 renal pelvis, renal pelvis, renal pelvis, renal pelvis, renal pelvis, calluses, 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 renal papilla, renal papilla, renal papilla, renal papilla, renal papilla, renal pyramid, renal pyramid, renal pyramid, renal pyramid, renal pyramid, collecting duct, collecting duct, collecting duct, collecting duct, collecting duct, loop of Henle, 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 corpuscle, 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 super rare renal gland, 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 kidney model on stain. All right, next is in little men, ureter, 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 adrenal gland, adrenal gland, adrenal gland, adrenal gland, adrenal gland, ovary model, germinal epithelium, germinal epithelium, germinal epithelium, germinal epithelium, germinal epithelium, tunica albuginea, tunica albuginea, tunica albuginea, tunica albuginea, tunica albuginea, vessels, 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 primordial follicle, primordial follicle, primordial follicle, primordial follicle, primordial follicle, primary follicle, primary follicle, primary follicle, primary follicle, primary follicle, secondary follicle, secondary follicle, secondary follicle, secondary follicle, secondary follicle, Graphian follicle, Graphian follicle, Graphian follicle, Graphian follicle, Graphian follicle, secondary oocyte, secondary oocyte, secondary oocyte, secondary oocyte, secondary oocyte, zona pellucida, zona pellucida, zona pellucida, zona pellucida, zona pellucida, corpus luteum, corpus luteum, corpus luteum, corpus luteum, corpus luteum, corpus albicans, corpus albicans, corpus albicans, corpus albicans, corpus albicans, corpus rubrum, corpus rubrum, corpus rubrum, corpus rubrum, corpus rubrum, labia major, labia major, labia major, labia major, labia major, labia minor, labia minor, labia minor, labia minor, labia minor, clitoris, 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 clitoris. It's a female urogenital model. Labia major, labia major, labia major, labia minor, labia minor, labia minor, clitoris, 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 clitoris. Hymen, 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 vagina, 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 cervix, 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 uterine tube, uterine tube, uterine tube, uterine tube, uterine tube. Ovary, 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 ovary. Ovarian ligament, ovarian ligament, ovarian ligament, ovarian ligament. Round ligament, round ligament, round ligament, round ligament, round ligament. Urinary bladder, urinary bladder, urinary bladder, urinary bladder, urinary bladder. Ureter, 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 ureter. Rectum, 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 rectum. Anus, 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 anus. Symphysis pubis, symphysis pubis, symphysis pubis. Symphysis pubis, symphysis pubis. Uterus, 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 uterus. Male urogenital model, testicle, 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 testicle. Epididymis, 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 epididymis. Number 3, cremaster muscle, cremaster muscle, cremaster muscle, cremaster muscle, cremaster muscle. Supramatic cord, supramatic cord, supramatic cord, supramatic cord, supramatic cord. Seminal vesicle, seminal vesicle, seminal vesicle, seminal vesicle, seminal vesicle. Prostate gland, prostate gland, prostate gland, prostate gland, prostate gland, prostate gland. Penis, 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 penis. Scrotum, 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 scrotum. Ductus vas deferens, ductus vas deferens, ductus vas deferens, ductus vas deferens, ductus vas deferens. Ejaculatory duct, ejaculatory duct, ejaculatory duct, ejaculatory duct, ejaculatory duct. Bulbourethral gland, bulbourethral gland, bulbourethral gland, bulbourethral gland, bulbourethral gland. Spongy urethra, spongy urethra, spongy urethra, spongy urethra, spongy urethra. Corpus sponginosum, corpus sponginosum, corpus sponginosum, corpus sponginosum, corpus sponginosum. Corpus cavernosum, corpus cavernosum, corpus cavernosum, corpus cavernosum, corpus cavernosum. Glans penis, glans penis, glans penis, glans penis, glans penis. Scrotum septum, scrotum septum, scrotum septum, scrotum septum, scrotum septum. Symphysis pubis, symphysis pubis, symphysis pubis, symphysis pubis, symphysis pubis. Inguinal canal, inguinal canal, inguinal canal, inguinal canal, inguinal canal. Superficial inguinal ring, superficial inguinal ring, superficial inguinal ring, superficial inguinal ring, superficial inguinal ring. Urinary bladder, urinary bladder, urinary bladder, urinary bladder, urinary bladder. Ureter, 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 ureter. That's it.